Professor Vel9 had taught comparative species history at the Galactic Academy for 60 standard years. She had educated the brightest minds from 100 different worlds, guided countless students through the complex tapestry of interstellar civilization. In all that time, she had never cried during a classroom presentation. Until the human student stood up to read her essay. The assignment had been simple: describe a significant moment in your species' history and explain its cultural impact. The Zenthari students wrote about the Great Unification. The Krell discussed their first peaceful election. The Pavilion chronicled their discovery of faster-than-light travel. Standard fare. Informative. Safe. Then it was Emma Chen's turn. The young human, barely into her second decade, which Professor Vel9 had learned was remarkably young for humans, approached the podium with a piece of actual paper. Paper. Most species had abandoned physical documents millennia ago. But humans, Vel9 had discovered, were sentimental about the strangest things. My essay is called The Library, Emma began, her voice quiet but steady. She told them about a place called Alexandria, where humans had gathered knowledge from across their known world. Scrolls and texts, philosophy and science, poetry and mathematics, all collected in one magnificent repository. A beacon of learning in an age of darkness. And then, Emma continued, it burned. The classroom was silent. Students from species that had never known war, never experienced catastrophic loss, leaned forward. We don't know exactly how much was lost, Emma said. Centuries of knowledge. Irreplaceable texts. The only copies of plays, histories, scientific treatises. Gone. Just, gone. Vel9 felt her chest tighten. Her species had preserved every byte of data they'd ever created, backed up across redundant systems on 17 different worlds. The concept of losing knowledge was almost incomprehensible. But here's the thing, Emma's voice grew stronger. Humans didn't give up. We couldn't recover what was lost, so we did something else. We started over. We rebuilt. And we made a promise: never again. She described how humans had created new libraries, greater than before. How they'd developed printing presses to mass-produce books, so knowledge couldn't be contained in one vulnerable place. How they'd invented the internet, spreading information across their entire planet instantaneously. How they'd sent golden records into space on primitive spacecraft, desperate to preserve some fragment of humanity for whoever might find it. We lost Alexandria, Emma said, her eyes glistening. But from those ashes, we built 1,000 Alexandrias. We put libraries in every city, every town, every school. We made it free. Because we decided that knowledge doesn't belong to the wealthy or the powerful. It belongs to everyone. She paused, looking around at her alien classmates. My species isn't the smartest in the galaxy. We're not the most advanced. We didn't even leave our own planet until you found us. But we're the species that lost everything and chose to share what we rebuilt. We're the species that remembered being ignorant and decided no one should ever be denied the chance to learn. Emma held up her paper. I wrote this essay by hand because my grandmother taught me how. She learned from her grandmother. It's inefficient. It's outdated. But it connects me to every human who ever put stylus to clay tablet, quill to parchment, pen to paper. It reminds me that knowledge isn't just data, it's legacy. She sat down. The classroom remained silent. Professor Vel9 realized her breathing apparatus was misting. She looked around and saw similar reactions from her students. The Zenthari's bioluminescence was pulsing with emotion. The Krell's carapace was shifting colors. Even the Stoic Pavilion were rippling with visible distress. Professor, one student finally asked. Why are we, what is this feeling? Vel9 understood then. Most species in the galaxy had evolved in relative peace, their progress steady and uninterrupted. They had never known true loss. They had never had to choose between despair and hope. This is what humans call empathy, Vel9 said softly. The ability to feel another's pain. And perhaps, inspiration. She looked at Emma, who seemed confused by the reaction her simple essay had provoked. Miss Chen, Vel9 said, you've taught us something today. Most species in this galaxy preserve knowledge because it's logical, because it's efficient. But humans preserve it because you know what it means to lose it. You value learning not because you're naturally wise, but because you remember being ignorant. And that makes all the difference. Emma smiled shyly. My grandmother always said, we're not protecting books. We're protecting the chance for someone, somewhere, to be better than we were. After class, Vel9 found herself researching human history more deeply. She discovered the burning of the Library of Alexandria was just one tragedy among countless others. Humans had lost cities, civilizations, entire cultures. And each time, impossibly, they had rebuilt. Not just structures, but hope. She updated her lesson plan for the following year. Section 12 would now be titled, Humanity and the Weaponization of Hope, How One Species Turned Tragedy into Triumph. And she made a note to keep tissues in her desk. Something told her she'd need them when the human students presented again.